Hello, ladies, gentlemen, wonderful people of the internet, and my favorite Habibis. Welcome to today's episode of the Avalon Meta News. What we're going to discuss today? Well, first, you guys might have heard about how Tesla is hiring for some senior executive roles in India. Well, even if you probably don't make it to those senior executive roles, there's some good news. Tesla may be rolling out some burger joints very soon in its supercharger stations. Maybe you can join in as one of their waiters. The second news that we have is while Tesla is one of those companies which does not have much in marketing, there's another Indian company also which does not technically market itself. And I'm talking about Zerodha. So recently Zerodha came up with some criticism on social media. And Nithin Kamath, its founder, has lashed back or defended those criticism on his tweets. So we'll explore what he actually meant and why his decisions have been defended and why maybe that's actually a good thing. And finally, we mentioned Elon Musk and how he, usually tries to explore the planet Mars. But for some reason, some people are saying, hey, Elon, maybe that's not the right planet. Maybe you should look somewhere else at Venus, as NASA is planning on launching 2 space missions to Venus. All of that and more. So wait till the end. I'll see you on the other side of the intro.
Follow your passion might be a perfect question to ask and might have a perfect answer when interpreted right.
Let's start tracking which stocks can actually go up and go down, or which stocks have an advantage with the vaccine coming out.
Why it would have been more expensive to fake a moon landing back in those days. It's quite an interesting video to watch.
The economic activity created from the App Store alone is worth $500 billion.
So let's move on to the next question.
Man, it was too easy.
Too easy, no? Why didn't you answer? All right, let's get started with the slides up. So you guys might have heard about, or you should have heard about Nithin Kamath, Nikhil Kamath, and the wonderful business that they have built, right? Zerodha, the self-broking company. Now, one of the reasons why I said you guys should probably hear about them is because they're an anomaly in the Indian startup ecosystem. Because they're one of the very few companies that are entirely bootstrapped and has hit that $1 billion unicorn valuation. So they announced a very profitable year, the 2020 to 2021 year, with almost doubling their revenue and the profit after taxes of up to 1,000 crores from just 442 crores the previous year. They are also come into news with this valuation. So you might ask, how are they valuating? I mean, how does this valuation come? So they are coming with this valuation of 2 billion right now with employee buyback of the ESOPs that they are giving in at that 2 billion valuation. So a lot of cool things happening. But they also face some criticism in social media, right? Because it came in the news that Nithin Kamath, Nikhil Kamath, and Nithin Kamath's wife, Seema Patil, who recently joined the board of directors of Zerodha, the 3 of them as working promoters are going to be drawing salaries of 100 crores per year. And people were like, man, that's insane, because they're now becoming one of the highest paid executives. So Nithin came in and he replied to some of those tweets. He didn't reply. He actually just put out a huge thread explaining how he was surprised about all this, noise and news that is coming around this, and how some things may have been misrepresented. Now, this first slide, this is actually funny. This one was, I learned about it when Nithin actually conducted, he joined Saurabh Pant in a Zoom interview, which was streamed live on Saurabh Pant's YouTube channel. Where they found out that Nithin Kamath actually has his website. In fact, this is like a funny website that his employees made for him, which says the world's most handsome stockbroker. You can actually look it up. That URL over there, I've highlighted it in yellow. If you go and type this URL, you'll find out that Nithin Kamath is the world's most handsome stockbroker. So his employees are obviously very happy. And Nithin came up with, he explains what this actually means. He mentions that he's not technically drawing this amount, this 100 crores as salary. This is basically just an enabling resolution that the board has passed, which means they can draw up to, that's the top limit, they can draw up to 100 crores in salary. And what they have said is that throughout their journey, they have always taken, say, 15% of the profits. And if this year the profit's around 1,000 crores, it makes sense for them to do the same. And they also say how their business is very different from a venture-backed or a VC or a private equity firm-backed business, and how they might end up having to pay more taxes. Those who draw salary from profits end up having to pay up to 51% in taxes. So he says, paying taxes, we are actually paying taxes, and we are not, using external funding. We are building the business from scratch. He goes on to say how they're a business that entirely grew on word of mouth. There's no other form of marketing, which means technically, because each of their users that come into the platform has to pay around 200 rupees, they have negative CAC meaning cost of acquisition. Whereas traditionally businesses spend most of the funding that they get in, running ads and in their marketing services. So these men have built wonderful businesses, and their story is beautiful to hear. It may sound like an overnight success, but it's a 20-30 year long business where they have put the commitment into building a very strong product ever since their ages of 17 and 18 when they started as normal traders. So it's a beautiful story, the ups and downs. Now this website might show, a funny version of Nithin Kamath, but you can explore that story in his actual website, nithinkamath.me. But yeah, it's really beautiful to see their story. You can go to the next slide. This is the news that came up where they said the brothers and the wife, the three members of the director. It's funny because majority of the members of the directors are them, right? And they passed this enabling resolution. And they go on to say that, dude, it's our business. We are not answerable to anybody, right? It's a private business. So it started off as a partnership. Now it's a public liability business. But we are not answerable to anybody because this is our business. We started off from scratch. Cool. Next slide. Yeah, so that's the series of tweets which he launched on May 30. He goes on to explain, like I mentioned, the difference in taxation in bootstrapping and funding, and how they might end up having to pay, like he's mentioned there, more than around 51% in taxes, and how they plan on using this investment into funding future businesses through the Rainmatter Foundation, businesses like True Beacon, which is an asset management company that they're currently working on. So all of these cool things. Awesome. And finally, perfect. So we spoke about one man who does not spend much on marketing for his business, but now we have new news where Elon Musk is probably entering into another business altogether. So there's space, there's electric vehicles, there's boring, there's all kinds of things. And now he's also entering into the restaurant business. And how is he doing this? So they launched, Tesla has, requested, applied for the trademark, the T logo, on their burgers, on their fast food, on their restaurant chain. So they have filed this application to the United States Patents Organization, and they'll find the application whether it's been approved around August 27th of this year. But it's interesting to see how this Tesla burgers will come up. So in 2018, you can go on to the next slide. In 2018, Elon Musk actually spoke about this. He put out a tweet saying that, he wants to see these old school drive-ins, roller skates, and a rock restaurant at their supercharger stations, right? Where these Tesla electric vehicles get supercharged. So this was launched in 2018, and then there was some development in April 2021 where they, took up the space in Santa Monica City. But after that, there wasn't much to be heard. The man on the right is Kimball Musk, right? And that's Elon Musk's brother. So Kimball Musk actually is a very famous chef and entrepreneur, restaurateur. And but Kimball Musk has some different ideologies than Elon Musk. Whereas Kimball Musk is also a person that sits in the board seat of Tesla. But Kimball's decision or his mindset is slightly different, where he is more into wholesome nutrition. So Elon Musk had, while he was in his early days, he had those notions or experiments where he would try to survive the entire day in say $1 by just eating oranges and hot dogs and things like that. During that time also, Kimball was like, no, we need more wholesome nutrition, something more holistic, nothing fast food and things like that. He's invested in certain firms like the Square Root, where they're focusing on things like farm to fork, right? Taking natural produce, even businesses like Chipotle, where he is another sitting board member, where they want to focus on healthier forms of nutrition. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of burgers this team will come up with. And yeah, we can go on to the next slide. Okay, yeah, so I think the previous slide. So yeah, like I mentioned, they launched this patent for those restaurants. So while you're waiting to charge your electric vehicles, you'll also be able to probably hop in and grab a burger on the side. Okay, and now to the final news. Right. So this is Bill Nelson. He is the NASA administrator. And now we are transitioning from Elon Musk and one of his ventures being going to Mars and probably, we discussed this in the previous news, right? Where we want to see human beings explore and be an interplanetary species. But one of the first interplanetary missions, in fact, the first interplanetary mission which launched from a space shuttle, was actually to the planet Venus. Now, Venus is known as Earth's evil twin. It's probably the hottest planet out there with a very thick atmosphere. So Mercury has almost no atmosphere, and then Earth has a very habitable atmosphere, while Venus has this really thick atmosphere filled with sulfuric acid. So for a long time, we don't know much about the surface. We didn't know much about the surface of Venus and whether it is habitable, whether it was ever habitable in the past. Because there have been rumors that it was probably one of the first habitable planets in our solar system. And the first mission that was sent there was the Magellan mission. And that happened in 1989. Okay, and Magellan was launched. It took off from the space shuttle, traveled around 15 months, reached the surface of Venus, and it rotated it's orbited around the planet for around 4 years. And eventually it was able to cover and identify the surface and the gravity of the planet around six times over, because there was some slight tilt in the orbiting and how the planet revolves. So the planet Venus actually revolves backwards compared to the other planets. But there was much to learn, right? Because of its very hot atmosphere, it's known like an inferno, things melt very fast. And even because of its very thick atmosphere, it's very difficult to, get vision into the planet's surface. Venus, for example, after the Magellan mission, so Magellan, they had to, it burned, the rover, it burned in October 1994 when it was said to, go onto the surface and burn itself because we can't bring it back. And during this, they noticed that the surface of Venus is kind of contradictory. Number one, majority of the things that happen there are thanks to volcanic eruptions. But interestingly, volcanic eruptions happen when there are tectonic movements in the boundaries of these tectonic movements. But there were no such tectonic movements. The tectonic movements there were very different from that happening on Earth. So then it brought in some curiosity on there must be some other way these volcanoes happen, because 85% of the surface of Venus is built by these. The surface is extremely smooth and pristine, unlike the other planets, including Earth. And a third thing is that there's almost very little impact craters on the planet. So it's a very smooth and pristine planet. And they started to raise the question on how is it different. And so now NASA is launching two missions. Number one is the Da Vinci Plus, and the other one is the Veritas Truth. And they are going to explore, say, the atmosphere. What is it that makes it unique? What is it that makes it different? Whether there was ever any form of oceans in the planet, and they're also going to explore, the geological transformations that occurred in this planet, how that transferred into what it is today, being that inferno. So although these missions may not give us that much in terms of answers, the idea is maybe they'll give us even more beautiful questions, and whether we can, because there has been a lot of rumors that these planets have had some biological signatures and some forms of life. So it'll probably not give us much in terms of answers, but it'll allow us to explore more questions about the solar system and the planets that we live in. Awesome, guys. So that wraps it up. That was the final news. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.